She told me I'd regret leaving her. Just like that. No tears. No begging. Just a threat wrapped in confidence. "You'll regret this first," she said right before I walked out the door with 2 duffel bags and my keys. It stuck with me longer than it should have, not because I believed it, but because I knew she did. That night I didn't sleep. I laid in my brother's spare room on a futon that should have been burned in 2009, staring at the ceiling. All I could think was how I stayed 2 years longer than I should have. How I kept thinking, maybe this is just a phase. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe if I just work a little harder, communicate a little better. I burned myself out trying to read her mind while ignoring my own limits. Before I left, the relationship wasn't loud, it was quiet in the worst way. No screaming matches, just dismissive looks, passive digs, constant shutdowns. Like slow poisoning. She made everything feel like it was my fault. If she was unhappy, I wasn't supportive enough. If she snapped, I should have known what kind of days she had. If she spent too much, it was because I made her feel small and she deserved something. I never saw the goalposts stay in the same place more than a week. I paid for everything: rent, utilities, groceries. She worked part-time at a boutique and called herself an entrepreneur. Said she was building a brand, but all I ever saw was her scrolling Instagram and complaining about the algorithm. I covered it all because that's what men do, right? Provide. At least that's what I thought back then. She never once said thank you. Not even when I bailed out her car repairs or paid off her dental bill in full. But the moment I brought up tightening the budget, she said I was trying to control her. Let me be clear, I wasn't perfect. I shut down emotionally. I got tired of trying to solve problems that just got recycled into new ones. I stopped initiating anything, dates, conversations, sex, because I was tired of being met with cold indifference or emotional traps. I became mechanical. Go to work. Come home. Cook dinner. Numb out. Sleep. Repeat. The day I left wasn't dramatic. No big argument. Just clarity. I'd been out of the house for 3 hours running errands. When I came back, she was still in bed, lights off, shades drawn. I walked in with bags in my hand and she said, "It must be nice to just leave any time you want and pretend life is normal." Something in me broke right then. I looked around and realized this wasn't a partnership. It was a hostage situation with emotional debt as the ransom. I said, "I'm done." She sat up, narrowed her eyes, and said it. "You'll regret leaving me first." I walked out. I blocked her on everything for 2 weeks. Not out of spite, but survival. I needed the silence. I needed to remember what it felt like not to walk on eggshells in my own house. She found ways to get around it. Called my mom. Texted my coworkers. Sent an email to my boss saying I was going through something serious, and to be patient with me. He pulled me into a meeting and asked if I was okay. I had to explain that my ex had boundary issues. That's when I knew I hadn't left a girlfriend, I had escaped a campaign. She didn't stop until I told her directly. "Any further contact from you will be considered harassment." That cooled her down. 3 months later, I heard she had cancer. My buddy Greg told me. He still followed her on socials. Said she posted a picture of a hospital wristband with the caption, "Life hits you hardest after heartbreak." I didn't react right away. I just stared at the text. Then I said out loud, "Of course." Not with pity. With recognition. Another move in the playbook. Another attempt to bring the spotlight back to her. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wish that diagnosis on anyone. But you know what I didn't do? Call her. Text her. Show up. Because I already knew how that would go. The guilt. The pressure. The story she'd spin for everyone watching. He left me and now I'm sick. But I still love him. Nah. I wasn't playing that game again. A week after that, I got a call from a mutual friend. Said she was asking about me. Wanted to talk things through. I told him, "There's nothing to talk through. We talked for 3 years and none of it meant anything once I set a boundary. Then came the guilt parade. Her best friend messaged me. I can't believe you're just going to abandon her when she's going through this. Another person posted a vague status about how some men only show up when it's easy. I stayed silent. She called once from an unknown number. I picked up without thinking. She said my name like it still belonged to her. I said, "Hope you have support," and hung up. That was the last time I heard her voice. I kept living. I got a better apartment. Started hitting the gym again. Made dinner for myself without being judged for how I chopped vegetables. Went out with coworkers. Laughed for real. But every now and then, her name would pop up. Someone would ask, "Have you heard how she's doing?" I always gave the same answer. "That's not my life anymore." I found out later no one picked up. No family. No friends sticking around for long. People got tired. She burned bridges trying to set them on fire behind her as a warning. The attention wore off. The posts stopped getting likes. Sympathy only lasts so long when it's layered on a foundation of manipulation. I guess she thought being sick would force people to stay. It didn't. I'm not proud of how detached I became. But I'm not ashamed either. I gave years to someone who turned vulnerability into currency and conflict into control. Cancer didn't make her a different person. It just made the mask thinner. You don't unlearn manipulation overnight. Sometimes you recognize it years later in how you talk to yourself. I had to rewire everything. I had to learn that saying no doesn't make me cruel. That prioritizing peace isn't selfish. That you don't owe someone access just because they're hurting, especially if they were the one who kept stabbing. Looking back, I see all the red flags I painted green. The silent treatments. The emotional blackmail. The "you should have known" games. The martyrdom. The way she used her pain as proof she was right. I tolerated it because I thought love was endurance. That if I left, I was weak. That if I stayed, I was a good man. Now I know better. Being a good man isn't about how much you take, it's about how honest you are about what you need. And I needed out? She once said, "You'll regret leaving me first." I think she believed that. She thought I'd come crawling back when things got hard for her. She thought I'd carry guilt like she carried grudges. But I don't regret leaving. I regret staying as long as I did. She got sick. That's tragic. But it doesn't erase the years she made me question my own worth. It doesn't undo the manipulation. It doesn't rewrite history. And it sure as hell doesn't obligate me to return. I'm not the villain. I'm just the guy who stopped participating. Now I live slow. Real slow. I drink my coffee while it's hot. I take walks without checking my phone. I sleep through the night. I have real conversations with people who don't try to win every exchange. I keep my peace like some people keep pets, close, fed, and away from harm. I don't check up on her. I don't need to. The past has a way of catching up to everyone eventually, and if you spent your whole life using people like chess pieces, don't be surprised when no one's left on the board when it matters. I didn't leave because I stopped caring. I left because I started caring about myself. And I've never once looked back. It's been 2 years now. Long enough for the dust to settle. Long enough that I don't flinch when someone brings up her name in passing. Long enough that I can sit in the silence and not feel like something's missing. Because nothing is. I rebuilt. Not with grand gestures. Just little things. New place, clean furniture, no ghosts. Cookware that's mine. Curtains I chose. Books I actually read. I stopped living in the leftovers of a life that was draining me. I switched jobs 6 months ago. Better pay, more structure, fewer fires to put out. The boss doesn't care what I do after 6 p.m. That means everything to me now. That clean break between work and home. No blurred lines. No constant crisis mode. My old job was manageable, but not with her in my life. Every time she called, it was some emergency. Some drama. Something urgent that only I could fix. Now if my phone buzzes, I know it's not a grenade. I started dating again about a year after I left. Took my time. At first, I couldn't tell what I was feeling. Every woman I met, I studied her too hard. I watched how she talked about her exes. How she treated servers. How she handled not getting her way. I wasn't looking for love, I was looking for red flags. I was policing for damage. I pulled back after a while. Decided I needed more time to just be. I reconnected with people I'd lost touch with. A couple old college buddies. My cousin Derek. Even my dad, who I used to resent for not being around enough when I was a kid. Funny how your perspective changes once you're the one carrying the load. Turns out, he wasn't a villain either. He just picked peace. I get it now. The nights are quieter than they've ever been. Sometimes I still brace myself, though. When the sun goes down and the house is still, my body tenses like it remembers something bad is supposed to happen. It doesn't. Not anymore. That's trauma, I guess. Not dramatic, just residue. About 3 months ago, I saw her. It wasn't planned. Wasn't even a big moment. I was grabbing coffee at this place I like near the office. She was across the street, waiting at a bus stop. Thin. Pale. Hair grown back, short and curled in like baby fuzz. Holding a paper bag in one hand, phone in the other. Alone. She didn't see me. I stood there for a second, debating whether to wave. I didn't. Not out of coldness. Out of peace. There was nothing left between us that required acknowledgement. I didn't owe her that nod. That smile. That breadcrumb. Later, I found myself wondering, what if she had seen me? Would she have come over? Would she have tried the guilt angle again? Then I realized I didn't care. I had no story to finish with her. No point to make. No validation to chase. I'd already lived the ending. People love a redemption arc. They want to believe in healing, in changed hearts. But sometimes the story is just, a person did what they did, and then life did what it did, and now they're both somewhere else. That's it. I think she tried a few more times after the diagnosis. I heard she called a couple mutuals. Said she wanted closure. I never responded. I didn't need to. That door's not just closed, it's sealed shut, reinforced, and grown over. You know what I regret? Not the leaving. Not even the years I lost. I regret not trusting my gut sooner. I remember this one night, before things really went downhill, where we were at a party. She was talking to someone across the room, and I heard her say, "He's sweet, but a little too vanilla. I need a little chaos sometimes." She said it with a laugh, like it was nothing. I pretended I didn't hear. But I did. And that should have told me everything I needed to know. Some people crave chaos like oxygen. They'll sabotage anything that starts to feel stable. Not because they're evil, but because peace feels foreign. Unsafe. You can't fix that. You can only recognize it and get the hell out before you drown trying to rescue someone who's throwing bricks at your head. There's a woman now. Her name's Melissa. We met at a bookstore, of all places. She teaches middle school English. Funny, grounded, sharp in a way that doesn't cut. Our pace is slow. Deliberate. We talk like people who've been through things. She doesn't pry about my past, and I don't unload. We're not here to fix each other. Just see each other. That's enough. She knows about the cancer. About the breakup. Not the full play-by-play, but the important parts. That I left. That I didn't come back. That I'm not bitter, but I'm not naive either. One night she asked, "If she called you and said she needed you now, what would you do?" I said, "Wish her well and hang up." She nodded and said, "Good." No judgment. Just confirmation that I'm where I should be. I keep boundaries like guardrails now. Not just in dating, everywhere. Work. Family. Friends. I no longer carry things that aren't mine. That means I say no more. I let calls go to voicemail. I don't rush to be the emotional janitor for people who show up when it's convenient. There's freedom in that. Real freedom. Not the performative kind. The kind where you sleep through the night and wake up without dread in your chest. As for her, I hear less and less. People stopped bringing her up. Maybe because they finally saw the pattern. Maybe because she stopped trying. Maybe both. I don't wish her harm. I just don't wish her in my life. Sometimes peace isn't earned. It's chosen. And you have to protect it like it's all you've got. I see it now. Clear as day. The manipulation, the deflection, the shifting blame. It's not about who has the better story or the louder pain. It's about who owns their choices. I left. She didn't believe I would. She thought pain would tether me. That illness would reset the score. It didn't. Because pain doesn't cancel out pain. It doesn't erase the things she said or did. It just adds another layer. I've forgiven her. Quietly. Not because she asked. Not because she changed. But because I won't carry her weight anymore. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation. It's refusal. Refusal to keep bleeding for someone who cut you and called it an accident. So no, I don't regret leaving her first. I'd only regret it if I'd stayed. I got the call on a Monday morning. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Figured it was spam or a wrong number. But something told me to check the message. It was her cousin. A name I hadn't heard in years. Hey. I know this is unexpected. I just wanted to let you know, she passed away last night. She didn't have many people around, but she left something for you. If you're okay with it, I can drop it off or mail it. No pressure. Just wanted to reach out. I sat in my car for a long minute. Just breathing. Not shocked. Not numb. Just still. There was no dramatic swell of emotion. No flashbacks. Just a quiet, strange sense of finality. Like a door had been sitting halfway open for years, and someone finally closed it all the way. I texted him back. Told him he could drop it at my place. He showed up that evening. Beat-up Honda. Hoodie and jeans. He looked like a man doing a chore he didn't want to explain. We didn't talk long. Just a quick handoff. A small padded envelope. Yellowed a bit. My name written in her handwriting. He said. She talked about you a lot at the end. I didn't respond. He added. She said you were the only person who ever actually stood up to her. Then he left. I waited until the next day to open it. Inside, one folded letter. One photo. One receipt. The letter was short. Barely a page. She said she never figured out how to be loved without testing it. Said she confused control with safety. Said she spent a lot of time hoping something bad would make people stay. And when it didn't, she got cruel. Not on purpose, she said. But not accidentally either. She wrote, I don't expect forgiveness. But I hope one day you'll remember me without flinching. The photo was from the first year we dated. I didn't even remember someone taking it. We were at a street fair. She was looking at me, smiling like she hadn't yet learned how to turn that smile into a weapon. I looked, open. Stupidly open. The kind of open I haven't felt in years. The receipt was for a donation. Some cancer fund. In my name. I sat there with it all in my lap and thought, I'm glad she wrote it. But I don't need it. That's what surprised me. I expected some tangled knot to tighten in my chest. But all I felt was confirmation. That I'd already buried the part of her that mattered to me long before she died. Still, I kept the letter. Not out of sentiment. Out of truth. It was the first honest thing she ever gave me. I didn't go to the funeral. I thought about it. I even got dressed that morning. Sat on the edge of the bed, tie in hand. But then I pictured the looks. The whispers. The weight of walking into a room full of people who only knew her through the stories she told, and knowing I'd never be allowed to exist in that narrative without being the villain. So I stayed home. Took a walk instead. Bought groceries. Called my mom. Normal things. That night I told Melissa. She listened. quiet, focused. No pity. Just presence. When I finished, she asked, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah. I think I am." And I meant it. The thing is, grief isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just quiet clarity. Not sadness for what's lost, but acceptance of what was never really there to begin with. There are days when I wonder what her life might have been if she'd figured herself out sooner. If she'd chosen healing over power. If she'd loved without keeping score. But that's just noise. Echoes. The real peace is in knowing I got out. That I didn't wait until I hated her. That I didn't trade years of myself hoping she'd finally understand what love without leverage looks like. A month after her passing, I got a call from her old friend. One of the ones who went silent when I left. She apologized for not reaching out sooner. Said, "I didn't know what really happened between you two." I told her, "You didn't need to." She paused and said, "She was complicated." I just said, "Yeah." She asked if I'd be willing to come speak at a small memorial they were doing later in the year. Not a eulogy. Just some honest words. "You knew her best." I said no. Not because I'm angry. But because I finally understood. I knew her as a partner. Not as a symbol. Not as a story. And that version of her doesn't belong on a pedestal. It belongs in the past. Now I live with less noise. I make decisions without bracing for impact. I don't analyze texts like they're traps. I don't mistake silence for punishment. I say what I mean. I keep boundaries tight. I give my energy to people who don't make me earn basic respect. And I don't miss her. That might sound harsh. But it's honest. And I've learned that honesty is the last thing you get back after years of emotional gaslighting. Once you reclaim it, you guard it like a dog guards a bone. Sometimes I walk past that same coffee shop where I saw her. The bus stop's still there. Different people now. One time, I saw a woman with that same tired look. Not sick. Just drained. I recognized it instantly. Someone living in a relationship she's too ashamed to leave. I wanted to say something. But I didn't. You can't save people like that. They have to walk out on their own. I hope she does. I hope she makes it out. But as for me? I'm out. I'm done. I'm clear. She told me I'd regret leaving her first. She was wrong. What I would have regretted was staying.